can do that too. So we got you guys. So don't worry about that. We'll make sure everyone gets some Kory time. All right. So I tell you what, Kory, I'll let you take it away, and we'll get this thing rolling.
Yeah, for sure. Just let me get shared here. And all right. Can everyone see the PowerPoint? Shake your head. Give me a thumbs up. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, let me minimize that. All right. So us working together for the last month here. Surfside made AccuForage a featured partner, and so we're kind of running with it. We've done a couple podcasts, and about 2 weeks ago, Justin, we were like, maybe this material can get digested a little bit better through a webinar. So that's what we're putting on today. We're going to call it the Grow the Hunt webinar. Grow the Hunt is AccuForage's motto, and we'll kind of get into why we use that as our motto. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Kory McConnell. I am the wildlife habitat nutrition at AccuForage. I've had that job for the past 2 years, and I'm really liking it so far. I really getting this thing rolling. But a little bit about myself. I have an associate's degree in wildlife technology and also a bachelor's degree in wildlife and fishery sciences. Both of those degrees come from Penn State University, which is it's classified as our agricultural college of Pennsylvania. So it really fits. During college, I had quite a bit of field experience, but the two that pertain to what I do now is I first worked in a Whitetail captive facility in New York. Very high-end people in this world, and I was lucky enough to take care of their lawn and keep track of their deer. So, and then probably my favorite field experience was the fawn catcher technician job through the University of Nebraska. So what we would do is we'd actually go and put collars on mule deer fawns and track them throughout the summer, and it was very cool to do. Like I said, currently I am working at AccuForage as the wildlife habitat and nutrition specialist. So a little bit of background about AccuForage. If you're not familiar, I know a couple of guys on here know who we are, but maybe there's a couple things that you don't know about us. So we're located in Kane, Pennsylvania. We're the northwest top corner of Pennsylvania. And as most of you can probably tell, we produce and manufacture feed, food plot blends, and deer mineral. About us, we own our own farming operation, which is kind of how this whole thing started. The owners rejuvenated like 700 acres of abandoned farmlands and then used them to grow grains such as corn, rye, soybeans, wheat, barley. They actually grew green beans at one point. So that was really cool. Currently, I am the only full-time employee of AccuForage, but also within our team who does other jobs as well. There's another wildlife specialist who is actually my fiance. She has the same degrees as us. She kind of went on the forestry side of wildlife, which is super cool how we can kind of take her knowledge and compare it into new products based off of natural browse and whatnot. And then below that, it says one wildlife agronomist. Now, I bet most of you don't know what an agronomist is, but basically what an agronomist is a soil scientist. So that is actually one of the owners. He went to Penn State for agronomy sciences, and pretty much it's how to manipulate soil and how to make them healthy, and also the interactions between soil and plants. So that really becomes beneficial when coming into the food plot blends. So I'm sure if you looked at our socials right now, you could probably tell what our top products are, but I'll list them off right now. Buck, yeah, that's my all-time favorite product that we sell. It's actually a granular feed. We go and harvest our own grain right here in Kane. And so every feed that we do, 95% of what's in that, we actually farm and harvest ourselves. Buck, yeah, is also laced with like antler developing minerals and whatnot, essential vitamins, nutrients, all that jazz. We're not going to go into that today. And then that comes into stump dumper. So the mineral that you would see is the same thing that stump dumper is, just in its own entity. We call it stump dumper because it works really, really well on rotten stumps, rotten pretty much anything in the woods. You can throw it on the ground. It just might not last as long. When we thrown it on a stump through our field trials, we saw anywhere from 30 days of straight attraction up to, there was one camera that we had 12 months of full attraction off of one container. So freaking legit. Fall Frenzy is our brassica food plot blend. You plant that late July, early August, and then it grows turnips, brassicas, rapes, all that type of stuff, radishes. And we actually get bowling ball size vegetables out of there. So that's really cool. Lucky Leaf, that is our clover blend. It's actually a mix of red, white, and Oasis chicory. So I think me and Justin talked about this through like a couple podcasts, but the Oasis chicory absorbs a lot of moisture within the roots. So if you go through a dry spell throughout the year, it is pretty much retaining that moisture.
So Kory, let me jump in here real quick. So just out of curiosity, because I'm a new food plot person myself. Right now for spring, which one are you recommending that should go in for people that are planting for spring?
So if you're looking for food plots in general, top of my list, clover is very simple to plant, very easy to grow, very adaptable. We have a couple other products. One Spring King, that's really good. It's a cereal grain alfalfa mixture. And then we also just brought out a food plot blend called AF Acres. That is something that you're not going to see anywhere else through any other company. It's actually a hybrid ryegrass and fescue. So it's called Duo Festolium, and that's the hybrid. It's actually used a lot in like cow pastures, hay pastures, stuff like that. But make sure that works as well. And it's really cool because it is very drought resistant, very disease resistant. It can grow pretty much in any soil, but it can also tolerate a high browse. So if the deer are constantly in that food plot, it's just going to keep bouncing back even better and better. And that's really cool. That's something you don't see in any other food plot on the market. Did that answer your question, Justin? Yes, no. Am I out? Am I good?
You're still on the. Oh, what did you stop sharing the screen?
Oh, I didn't know. I asked you a question, you didn't answer, so I didn't know.
Oh, sorry, man. Yeah, I'm all good. I'm all good.
All
You
right,
can keep going.
good.
I didn't want to interrupt it and break it all up because I know we're going to ask questions at the end, but I felt that was a good time to
Sorry if your
throw
experience.
that in.
All right, cool. So what does grow the hunt mean? To us, you know, a lot of people spend a lot of money on the type of products we sell. We try to keep it as cost effective as possible. But really, you know, we're here to grow trophy bucks, whether they get a booner stage or not, that in our bonus control. But consistently through our management strategies, we are seeing 20% growth. A lot of it we pin on our feed and mineral, but without the food plots, you know, we wouldn't be able to hold deer where we have our feed and mineral sites. So grow the hunt, physically grow your deer and food plots. Very simple, straightforward. But kind of the double-edged sword of grow the hunt is extending the hunting season through habitat management, growing memories with the family, friends. I actually just posted a reel today. Might have been a little cheesy, but you know, we stand behind grow the hunt. We want everyone to get out there and know, you know, deer season doesn't have to end at the end of December, the end of January, end of February, whenever that is for you. It can last the full 365 days of the year if you know, start into the habitat management realm of hunting. And it's a really cool thing to really connect with others and, you know, grow memories. So practically it's a lifestyle. All right, so we're going to go a little. So a big thing in deer biology that relates to antler development is that you need to be able to build the bone structure. I might be jumping ahead here a little bit, but as you can read the notes as I talk. So growth starts as soon as a doe is bred and accelerates once a fawn is born, if that makes sense. So as the doe is bred, the fetus is going to start developing, and, you know, through our studies and lots of other university studies, if a fetus is even 2 ounces bigger than its other competition, it's well more off than the other fawns in the deer herd. That's because, I mean, it's just, you're adding weight, you're adding muscle, all that. So they don't necessarily have to catch up. And about late born fawns, it's almost an endless cycle. Obviously it's very dependent. So in PA, Memorial Day is peak fawning. So we're looking at 2 weeks. Or wait, no, this week is Memorial Day. So anything, you know, late June or anything like that, that would be considered a late fawn. You can track track to when that doe was bred. If you actually have anyone walking around, go back about 201 or 204 days, and that will give you an estimate of when your rut was last year. So, like I said, late born fawns have the ultimate disadvantage. Usually if they're late born fawns, that means their mothers were bred later in the year. So here in PA, late rut can typically occur end in November, early December, sometimes even later. It just all depends. So, and this is a theory that I have, and it hasn't been proven. I just don't have the technology and the equipment to do this, or the permits. But if does are bred late and they birth a late fawn, more than likely that fawn that offspring that they give birth to, if it's a doe, it's going to be a late breeding doe as well, if that makes sense. So nutrition, forage relates to energy, fats, and bone development. All that is very important to the survival of the deer. In the build the bone section, we kind of hit on this already. Antler development is the last thing on the deer's to-do list. Pretty much they're worried about three things. I think we hit on this a little bit later. Staying alive, eating, drinking, and breeding. So I guess there's four. And a huge factor that you guys need to take away from this webinar is the skeletal system is the warehouse for essential minerals and vitamins. That means the calcium, phosphorus, zinc, magnesium, iron, etc. All that is being stored in their skeletal system. So just because their antlers are hardened, you know, come here in PA, it's early September. Just because they took their velvet off doesn't mean that you still do that and fill up their warehouse, which is their skeletal system, full of those essential minerals and vitamins. Because the more stores they have, the more likely they're going to survive winter, and the more likely they're going to grow a bigger rack next year. So yeah, we hit on other contributors. Protein, and this is a huge misconception in a lot of AccuForage's competitors. And I'll just kind of make a little statement here where a lot of these companies, they're doing it as a side gig, where I'm doing it as a full-time job. So I'm putting every effort into this, and I'm making sure that it's 100% legit, what I'm going to tell you and what I'm going to sell you. Deer can only absorb up to 16% of protein before it goes out the back end. So say you're looking at Walmart and you see a product that says 35% protein. It might be 35% protein, but is that deer actually going to absorb it? So our buck, yeah, for example, is our max is 18. So more than likely we're hitting 16% right on the head. All right, so let's start talking about private land management. I know I'm sure a lot of you have land that either you own or that you can have access to where you can manage it to the benefit of you and the wildlife. So I chose to start at natural browse. Natural browse is going to be, it's pretty much going to tell you what your property needs. And my list down here, you're actually in love, and you can tell there's some obvious ones and not so obvious. The obvious ones are like your oak acorns, your cherries, your red maple saplings, your hickory nuts, your apple trees, your chestnuts, stuff like that, hard mast, soft mast, and anything in between. Not so obvious stuff is greenbriers, them jagged things that you walk around the woods and you hate walking through because they're going to stab you. The deer actually really, really love those. Tea berries, which is the side of the slide. Those, I even found it up here in the middle of National Forest. In the dead of winter, when there was 20 inches of snow, those deer were digging for those little tiny red tea berries. And I mean, I'm talking that big. Grapevine and grapes in general, huge forage for deer in the fall time. Late summer, early fall, you got your raspberries, blackberries, and beech nuts. All right, so habitat management. Again, here's the deer necessity: food, water, cover, girlfriend. Key factors to really pay attention to when, say, you're going in and trying to do some habitat management. Looking at your natural browse and what you plan on establishing on that property, you want to have multiple areas on that property being a polyculture. That means there's more than one variety of forage for deer. They love variety. They love, and we're going to talk about this later, smorgasbord, variety in one area as possible. And I know a lot of people in Surfside have even said this before. deer are edge creatures. They're going to hug that edge and use it as their own cover. So, and another thing before you even jump into, oh, I need 10 acres of food plots, I need 2,000 pounds of feed per year. Look at your buck to doe ratio. You can find that many ways, including like camera trap surveys. Overall deer density you could find through pellet. So you out right after your snow is thawed out and you count their poop. And there's a crazy equation that I know how to run. So if you ever need that information, hit me up. But a good buck to doe ratio is 1 buck to every 2 to 3 does. And I've had many conversations with people in my profession where, you know, you need less does, you need more does. 2 to 3 is a perfect average. It's just really good. Your bucks aren't going to be overrunning to get every single doe because there's 30 does that need bred to every 1 buck. You're going to pretty much kill that deer. And it might not be your fodder, I don't know. But doe management is just as important as harvesting mature deer. We'll say that. All right, so here's what anybody can do, and these are just a couple things. There's a million different things you could do for habitat management, but these are the main focus for today. As I said earlier, anybody can do deer density surveys. That's including spotlight surveys, deer pellet counts, and trail camera surveys. Just because, I mean, I'm sure most of you guys have trail cameras, but are any of you asking for, and there's an equation for that, and that's a lot simpler than a lot of other equations. Trail cameras actually provide a lot of valuable data that people kind of overlook because they think trail cameras are just for seeing pretty big bucks. That's not the case. Food plots. Anybody can put in a food plot. I don't care if you have a garden rake or if you have a 60 horsepower tractor. Anybody can put in a food plot of any sort. Feeding program, again, just make sure you're getting that right feed. Obviously, I'm going to suggest buck, yeah, but just make sure not high protein because more than likely the deer is just going to push it out to back end. And then soil management. That is a thing that has gone through the hoops of habitat management for years, and we're trying to bring it to everyone's knowledge. The plant is only as good as the soil, and the deer is only as good as the plant. So having healthy soil relates to growing bigger deer. And we've seen it over the years. That is something that, you know, you go and pay someone to do. Not to say that you can't go out and do this, but I just wanted to put this in here to bring awareness that some of these things should be done a specific way, and if you mess up, you could be in some serious trouble. So prescribed burns, obviously anyone can light a fire, but you don't want to light the whole woods on fire. So make sure you got a professional that knows how to do it. Large tree removal. If you've worked cutting down trees your whole life, you probably shouldn't start today. Installing big ag. I only put that in there. And when I talk big ag, I'm talking 5+ acres of corn and soybean fields. Not everyone has the equipment to do that. So it's either you're going to hire a local farmer to plant it, or you're going to hire a consultant to do it. Herbicide treatments. Now, a lot of people do herbicide treatments, but don't realize you actually have to have a permit to run those herbicide treatments. You have to go through a couple classes, safety classes, and get put on a list that says you're permitted and qualified to apply herbicide treatments. That honestly is including Roundup and everything you can buy at a general store. All right, so we're going to go down what anybody can do a little bit. So we're going to start off with understanding soil. Really, the best thing to do to start habitat management through Penn State. Might be a little biased, but we've never had an issue with their soil labs. So we always send it through them. It's $9 plus a shipping fee. So you're looking at maybe $14 for a soil sample. If you don't want to go through a university, lots of conservation districts will actually come out and do the soil test for you. It depends on the district if they're going to charge you for that service or not. But either way, through Penn State, we get about a 1 week turnaround. I think this year they've been on turnaround. So that's super good. So you turned it in, you got your result back. Key factors to pay attention to is your PK and MG and calcium. Those are what you can actually manipulate in the soil. Potassium and phosphorus you can manipulate through fertilizer. Magnesium and calcium you manipulate through lime. So I should have put one in here, but when you get a soil test back, it will say at the top, your PKMG, and they're either going to be below optimum, or over optimum. You obviously want it in that optimum range. Another thing that, I've done this research. I cannot find a whole lot of people that are talking about the CEC for food plots and soils and stuff like that for your food plots. Everyone's missing the boat on it. So the CEC is the cation exchange capacity. That is your soil's ability to exchange nutrients and stuff like that, to accept the fertilizer and accept the lime that you're going to add to it. And that also plays in with organic matter. It's really super complicated, and I'm trying to put it into like simpler terms, but that's pretty much the basics. So there's two types of lime. There's pelletized and there's ag. Pelletized is practically pellets of lime, and then the ag lime is powdered lime or hydrated lime. And that's something you got to pay attention to. There's, just like on our feed and our food plots, there has to be a back tag to it and given it and a guaranteed analysis. So usually what I see is pelletized lime is going to have a higher magnesium than ag lime. So, and that's not always the case, so you better make sure. But if, say, your magnesium level from your soil test is optimum, you probably shouldn't add high mag pelletized lime or even ag lime. But if your calcium is kind of low in the triple digit number, you might want to think about adding calcium, vice versa as well. So that's a huge thing. People just say, oh, lime's lime. I can go to my ag way down the road and no matter what they have, it's good enough. And more than likely, if you didn't get the soil test, you might be wasting your money. And sometimes I've even seen where managers actually screw up their soil, and it actually goes into magnesium lockup, and that's kind of hard to get out of. On the fertilizer, the three numbers on a fertilizer bag is NPK: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. It's labeled as a ratio, so that means a 50-pound bag of 10-20-20 is 5 pounds of nitrogen, 10 pounds of phosphorus, and 10 pounds of potassium. So 50% of that bag is actually what you're getting. Everything else is coating and whatnot, but that, no matter what, it's still a ratio. And another thing that is kind of neat is the N on the fertilizer. You actually aren't going to get a value on your on your soil test. It's not going to say your nitrogen is optimum, below, or over. That is because nitrogen is soluble. That means it is easily extracted out of the soil. So more than likely, you got to add nitrogen each year. It gets soaked up by the plants real quick. It just does not retain in the soil. Let me double check everyone can still hear me. Okay. All right, so say your CEC came in kind of low. I like to say an optimum level of CEC is in the 1500 range. So how do you increase that? What I do is you add organic matter. That means get as much green in that plot that you can. A couple examples of products that we have that will work is Spring King. That's actually what it was invented for, is for adding organic matter to till in for your cups. Two other ones is, the other one is Out of Sight. I know, Grant, you got a couple of that. I'm looking forward to seeing what you did with it. But that stuff is a forage sorghum that's going to grow 10 to 12 feet tall, real thick, and it's going to add a lot of organic matter. Mostly if that's not an area that you plan on hunting, add that on there for next year. It's going to add a ton of organic matter. The other one is that new one, AF Acres. That stuff's probably 4 foot tall, but grows super, super thick. Another way to build the soil is crop rotation. So different, like clovers are going to suck up different nutrients than brassicas. Brassicas are really like the phosphorus and stuff like that. So if you can do crop rotation year to year, or even we do it to where we're alternating between spring and fall plots in the same area. So we can do an inter-year crop rotation. That's where the Spring King comes in for the fall frenzy. Absolutely never. When you leave it bare, that means there's no nutrients being exchanged throughout the soil, which is lacking through CEC and stuff like that. So even if it's weeds, make sure you're not taking those weeds out before you're ready to plant. Again, soil health is a direct relation to deer health and antler growth. That's kind of a complicated, iffy situation, but we're seeing the results and we stick by it. Okay, food plots. Again, you have your brassicas, cereal grains, legumes, grasses, and your big ag. Big ag is in red because I'm not a fan of it, mostly if you're planting food plots within the same vicinity of it. Obviously, that bigger agriculture is going to attract more deer, but I will show you a situation where big ag might actually be an advantage for you guys. So legumes are stuff like your clovers, alfalfas, grasses are like rye, the dual festolium, orchard grass, stuff like that. Deer absolutely love it. Food plot techniques. There's absolutely no perfect way to plant a food plot. The only thing you need to worry about is seed to soil contact and making sure you're not burying your seed below its required seeding depth. You'll actually find that a lot of seeds they actually need to be fairly shallow. Like most of ours are, we say 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch. That doesn't take a whole lot for that seed to get down in there. So frost seeding, that's kind of become a big topic lately. A lot of people say that for clover, you double your amount, blah, blah, blah. You don't need to. A seeding rate's a seeding rate. So for like clovers and stuff like that, stick to the seeding rate when you're frost seeding. Now, if you're throwing something down like Spring King, where it has some cereal grains, and alfalfa, where it needs a little bit extra because it's not as frost hardy, it's good to up that seeding rate maybe to 1.25 instead of 1. 125% instead of 100%. So basically, if you listen to our podcast last week, what we do is we go in. If we have to mow, we'll mow. If we have to spray, we'll spray. We'll go through, till it. We'll either disc it, then till it, or we'll just till it. And then we'll get a nice smooth seed bed. And then we plant on top of that. We spread our lime and fertilizer the same exact day. We just make sure that the rain is in the forecast or it's kind of overcast. What else? No till. No till is a big thing right now, and we've messed around with it for quite a few years. I'm not on board with it exactly yet. Basically, from our findings, you have to have prep soil and not so rocky, and you just have to manicure your soil a lot more often than you would with just not drilling. So we stick with the tilling method as long as you're paying attention to leaching from your first stuff that there's really no reason for not to tilling. You're actually bringing the nutrients back on top, which is good, stuff like that. Cultipacting. We done it, we do it. It's a good thing, but you just got to watch and make sure you're not burying that seed too deep. If you bury your seed too deep, it's not going to grow. And that's actually one of the top reasons why people's food plots fail. Okay, so do food plots actually benefit deer? Abso-freaking-lutely. But you gotta, no matter what, they'll benefit deer, but the deer actually might get more benefit out of it than you do if you don't set it up correctly. You want a 50-50 benefit. The thing that I tell all my clients, and where we actually plant for our test plots, we make sure that there is a forage there for each season of the year: spring, summer, fall, winter. And obviously in our region, winter forage is a top priority. In the woods, there's no good natural browse. All the acorns are picked up. So we definitely make sure winter forage is there. So what do food plots benefit? How do they benefit deer? One, obviously, is they provide food. The minerals and vitamins that you provide into the soil is going to get brought up through that forage, and then the deer is just going to consume all that. They obviously add an attraction for you, and usually it keeps deer located close to your property. Deer are sometimes they like to not expend as much energy as possible. So if your food plot is still thriving, still has quite a bit of forage, they're not going to travel very far because they don't need to waste that energy looking for food. Okay, so I have this slide just to kind of make it a transition. Justin, is there any questions that you want to bring up?
If you want to, we can. I mean, if you want to keep going, we can roll through it, or we can knock out. There's 3 or 4 questions people asked. I'll let you kind of decide if you want to do it at the end or if you want to knock them out.
Let me look at them real quick here.
It's going to be Chris, Grant. Let's see here. Chris, William.
Okay. Yeah, this is definitely something that we can come back to at the end here.
All right, cool. So guys, just up on your questions, and we'll go through each one right at the end here.
Yeah, and you guys don't be afraid to ask any questions. It's there's no wrong question, and I'm here to help anyone. So feel free to ask any questions. So we're gonna keep on keeping on throughout this webinar. All right, so edge and security. As I said beforehand, you guys can go ahead and watch this video of this doe. I think it's actually a yearling, not exactly sure. but just watch as she moves through this little opening. So edge, we kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. It provides a path of least resistance. It's easy cover within stepping range. And usually the deer is going to be only vulnerable on one side. As you can see, this deer is hugging that hard edge within the warm season grasses to forage actually on the green path that we have there. So obviously now her left side is the only side that is pretty much vulnerable. But if she's ever in any danger, say she sniffed me out in that tree stand, she'd be jumping to her right because it's quick and easy cover, and that cover is actually above her back and her head. And that type of warm season grasses, that's an old strip job, so it's just a bunch of random native warm season grasses. But it makes her feel safe. It's full coverage, and she's hidden from multiple angles. Like I said, you're either seeing her from behind, straight forward, or to her left. The other half of her body is right to cover. The perfect security or edge or anything like that is, again, usually taller than the deer, but not so tall that the deer can't pick its head up and telescope throughout wherever it's looking. So as you can see right there, she poked her head up to look around real quick, back to feeding. Now, we'll go back right here. As a wildlife person and for proper management, I'm not a huge fan of the hard edges. Feathering, it kind of helps a little bit better. Kind of helps blend in the habitat that you're manipulating. So edge feather is a gradual transition between two different habitats. So instead of say a wood lot is right here, so it's 30 foot high, then you got a clover plot over here that's only maybe 5 inches high. That's a hard transition. That's a hard feather, or not a hard feather, a hard edge. I prefer the gradual, where it slowly descends down to that flat area, and even on the other side, it goes back up. This picture is a pretty good example, but as you can see, the left side, there's some brushier, autumn olive, honeysuckle, and stuff like that. And it's gradually. Where on the right side of the picture, it's practically straight down, and the deer just seem to like it better. That's from my experience, and maybe you guys can try it out and learn for yourselves. So right now I'm going to go through kind of a setup that I've done. This is actually my buddy's property. I help him with food plots, so that's there. This is his property. Everything in the yellow is either cornfield or hayfield, depending on the year. So we're looking at like 7-8 acres there. And that black circle towards the right side of the open field is his current food plot. So it's about a little bit over an acre. And I'm going to take you through the process. We're in the process of actually manipulating. He's getting his property cut, and we're going to try to manipulate his food plots to bring more deer in, feel more comfortable. This is a close estimate of the approximate deer bedding. We've hunted this property for years, so I could just hurry up and pin it. I didn't go around and actually pin beds. So the north end of the property, there is a swamp, which you can see right here. This is kind of the edge of the swamp. There is a pine plantation. It's actually a Christmas tree farm over here. And there's, as you can see, there's this southwest facing hill. It's very seldom to plant, but that's where the deer like to bed. And down here are just some hemlocks, and that's pretty much where the deer come. They kind of funnel to the food plot, but they get through the food plot almost too quick, and they get into that corn too quick because I'm not going to pass up a full-on turkey meal when you're only offering me some ramen, if that makes sense. So as we were discussing what we kind of wanted to do, we decided on cutting the ag back. He actually leases some of that field to a local farmer. That's why there's ag there. He's not the one planting it. That farmer relies on that to bring in a little bit of income. So we're actually going to cut the food plot back, or extend the food plot. We're going to cut the big ag out a little bit. We're going to extend that food plot to 3 acres to add a little bit of variety and stuff like that. Let the deer come from that hard edge and get up into the polyculture of the food plot. So in the previous picture, I didn't have the tree stand location where it's at. There's actually a blind right here currently, and that's where they've hunted out for the past couple of years. And there has been a 2-man up in this corner. Not saying that they didn't have success, but a lot of times them deer would come out from this direction, and they'd actually come out straight in between the two of the tree stands, right through the middle. So in archery season, they're 80 yards in any direction. And I'd like to move the blind from this corner up to here, let the deer come out of the woods, funnel through the food plot and get to their destination, which is the big ag. So that's my thoughts on that. So basically when he came to me and said, hey, let's revamp some stuff, he said that he was having his property cut and these loggers would actually install a food plot for him, and they said the requirement was minimum of 1 acre. Really, 1 acre is not that big. One thing, and I even have it listed here, do not do is go out in the middle of the woods, tear up some ground and make it a perfect rectangle. It does not look pretty, and the deer actually notice that. You'll see it all the time on social media, people just taking bulldozers, clearing out 20 acres, and it's just a big open field now. To me, that's no fun. I like to make the deer feel more natural, more secure coming in. So that's why we're going to do it like this. There's also outbursts of this plot. And as you can see, kind of on the right side of this new food plot, we're going to follow the topography line, same down through here. And I do all these outbursts and inserts on these food plots because it actually adds more edge. And then it also adds a little bit closer of action to put your tree stands, just depending on where the deer come from. One big thing, if you're trying to connect, so basically the whole takeaway from this example, figure out where the deer's main destination is and get in between that main destination and their bedding and direct them to that destination if it's on your property. And obviously for this example, the main destination is a 3 acre food plot with the six acres of big ag, whichever one it is. So connecting trails, these can be used as walking trails in for you, and it also is going to direct the deer to where you want them to go, which is the destination. And I put some examples of where I think the stand locations are. So when you do this type of opening in the middle of the woods, you don't want to have your tree stand right in the middle of that plot because the wind is going to swirl so bad because you have so much edge in that. You kind of want to stay back from the edge of the food plot and make sure your wind is actually going to go in the direction you're hoping it's going. So I'm a big fan of screening. It is a huge game changer fodder. So obviously anywhere so his house is actually located right up here, and we walked down through here to get to this existing one, and now we'd have to walk down here and dogleg it into the blind. So you definitely want to make sure all your angles are covered entering and exiting. And obviously if it's planted in corn, you can use that, but the screening is definitely there to help you and to help the deer feel more comfortable, because it's got an edge when you start planting food plots in here. And if the deer don't feel comfortable, they're not going to stay there long. And I know a big issue when we had this plot is the deer can actually see that house right there. So any movement up at the house, they're noticing, and it's just not good. So years that there isn't corn, we're definitely planting screening. I'm one for planting screening no matter what, just because it's just an extra added insurance. So this is something that I didn't come up with this, but this is what I labeled this technique as, and it works wonders. It's not used in the habitat management food plotting world. I call it the smorgasbord effect. Like earlier I said, you got to provide as much variety as possible. So I kind of have it labeled out here. In your main destination food plot, you got your fall frenzy brassicas. That's going to be primed during the first couple weeks of frost, and then throughout the late fall through winter. We sometimes even see it through spring. Grand Slam, that's your taller stuff. That is actually this slicher. That's like your dwarf sunflowers, dwarf corn, dwarf sorghum, stuff like that. So it's a little bit taller. You got that 4 to 5 foot range. And that's going to also add some protection on when you're in the blind on your right side or when you're entering to the blind. And then right in front of the blind is going to be Lucky Leaf. I prefer that a lot of times when you're hunting from the ground, because of the taller vegetation can sometimes mess up a shot when you're bow hunting. That's the only reason. You can plant whatever you want, wherever. Just every variety. And obviously I have out of sight around the whole thing, like I showed you before. And for the middle of the wood food plots, I choose a clover Lucky Leaf mixture, same as for your connecting trails, because no matter what, it's very shade tolerant, and more than likely it's going to grow, and you don't have to access that area so often and make sure the weeds aren't going to outcompete it. Now, obviously within the woods, it's even bit me in the ass a couple times. Ferns can be a killer of clover. So obviously just don't plant it and don't just leave it. Make sure you're checking every other week. And again, connecting trails, you run that clover on there and it's shade tolerant, and really all you got to do is mow it unless the ferns are trying to take it over. Okay, another technique that I like to do, and this is kind of an example of everything put together. So you want to do some hourglass funneling. So you're bringing all the deer from outskirts of your property, or even if it is on your property, outskirts of your food plots, and you're directing them this way, and they're all almost all going to get isolation. So you can have some tree stands right along these trails and whatnot, and stuff like that. And then you want them to disperse through your destination. So, and you know, when you do this kind of in between bedding and in between the main destination, that's good for you guys that film your hunts, because more than likely you're going to see those deer a little bit earlier in daylight. You're going to have good filming light, and it's not going to be, you know, 5:30 at night getting real dark because they're in the destination. So this video is kind of just a visual on how it should all play together. Again, it's just showcasing the coming together, and then this. Play it again so everyone can see. So supplemental feeding, I'm a big advocate for it. Again, don't listen to everything you hear online because it's probably bull crap. But obviously follow any local and federal laws pertaining to feeding of deer. If you guys are in PA, I just wanted to bring to your attention as you can legally use 30 days before season. So last year it must have ended September 1st. Advantages, if you're using the correct stuff, AKA buck yeah, this will physically grow bigger deer, add body weight, add body size, and that's just going to reflect in the larger antlers year to year. And for those of you that can hunt over it, added attraction. I have a lot of guys saying, actually a lot of them say they missed, but a lot of them say they get some nice deer over coming into the buck yeah. I hate feeding raccoons. I hate feeding bear. Realistically, they're just like deer. They're trying to find the easiest food source, and they're going to take advantage of it. So you should at least have a clean state of mind that you're benefiting all wildlife. If you are thinking about supplemental feeding programs, when should you start? As soon as possible. We're looking at, what is today? Today is May 18th. So we're looking at so this is the time to start if you're going to start. Right below that, antlers start as soon as previous years was casted. It is a myth that this year's growth pushed off last year's antler. That's not true. Deer actually heal over the wound where they casted their antlers, then they'll start growing. Winter is the harshest time for deer, at least in our area. I know a lot of places like Georgia and Florida. If you're in areas a little bit more north, there's no green, there's nothing out there. So February through April is the harshest time in our area. So true deer minerals. I know that stump dumper is a true deer mineral. At least to my classification, because it has a wide variety of essential minerals. There's not just calcium, phosphorus. It's not dical. It's got a wide array of all of those: zinc, potassium, phosphorus, calcium, all that type of stuff. An abundance of everything, and not one thing is greater than the other, because you want the wide variety. You want a good balance to give to your deer. And I call stump dumper a true deer mineral because it is actually low in salt. Salt does not actually do a whole lot of antler growing, believe it or not. It does have some assistance in it, but it actually helps the deer regulate water more than anything. So if you're looking at a drought time, you probably shouldn't have your salt blocks out. When should these true deer minerals be implemented? February through September, when they start growing or when they're almost ready to start growing, until they took their velvet off. That's the most important time. Obviously, if you're in areas where you can have minerals out all the time, definitely add storage in their skeletal system. Okay, so we're at the end, everyone. Again, my name's Kory McConnell, work with AccuForage. There's my information on how to get a hold of me. Like Justin always tells his guys, you buy a product from AccuForage, you get all my knowledge with it. I'm on the phone 24/7 trying to help people out, trying to get them the right direction. And if you haven't yet, I'd really appreciate it if you guys go on our socials and give us a follow, give us a like, whatever you want to do. That's pretty much the conclusion for me. Let's
solid. I know that was a lot of information. I mean, it definitely a lot of good basics there, man. I learned a lot, and it looks like we got some questions here. I'll tell you, I'll go through some of these. If there's questions that Kory feels like he's gonna have to like really go into depth and talk to you more about, that's something too we can kind of, he can contact you and you can just shoot him an email or whatever. We can get your contact info, and Kory, you know, you can kind of go from there. But I tell you what, let me just back up here. So one of our first questions that we had was
what do they like about red maple? That was Grant's.
yeah, there you go.
So basically what they like about red maple is they like the seedlings. Everything that's this year's growth or even last year's, they're going to pick that right off. That's kind of the same with red oaks as well. When they're saplings, they're just gonna snip them all off, and that's why you see a lot of forestry industries going out and putting up deer fences to lower the amount of deer browse. Red maple also, they provide some seeds, so if it's a really harsh winter and if there's some maple seeds still laying on the ground, they're gonna actually eat that. Do you need, I'm not 100% sure on that. We don't do a whole lot of burning. Justin, you want to mute your mic there?
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. But no, I don't know if you do need a permit exactly. I know the couple times I've been on it, we've notified, you know, the game commission, we've notified the local fire department. Definitely contact your local conservation district. If you do need a permit, they can more than likely set you up with someone who has a my area of Pennsylvania we need to burn. Yeah, man, a lot of Pennsylvania needs some burn. It's just how it kind of goes. Funds in the conservation districts are kind of slim right now. Can't burn in Ohio. Do it here. Is a herbicide license needed for small plots? Legally, yes. Again, if you can get your hands on it and you want to get a little tricky with it, go for it. But I just want to bring that to everyone's attention that, you know, with all the pollinators and stuff like that, they require a license or a permit, more like. I can get dolomite lime from work. What's your opinion on dolomite lime? I haven't done a whole lot of research on dolomite lime. I'm almost certain that's pretty close to ag lime. Whoever runs that part of your definitely see if they have any information if it's high mag or high calcium. You ever see the company using deer hemp for deer? I was wondering, what is that? Okay, so Christopher asked about about AccuForage using deer hemp, sun hemp, excuse me. So we actually have done a couple things with that. Deer absolutely devour it. It's hard to get your hands on, at least for companies. It's definitely not out of the question, I'll tell you that. We haven't done a whole lot of logistics on nutrition and what it is actually going to grow good with without competing in the blend. I do know that other companies use sun hemp in their screening, which to me makes no sense because like why would you have a forage that is highly attractive in a screen that you're trying to sneak in with? Like you don't want deer near your screen unless you actually want the deer bedding in it and stuff like that. Also on deer health, is doe health important or is it just the fawn after the birth of the fawn? No, doe health is absolutely important. We actually have our own product called Doe Pro. It is for doe health and stuff like that. Increases lactation production, stuff like that. And deer in general, you need to manage. It's not just bucks. Obviously buck and stuff like that is going to pertain to does as well because they're the same species. Doe Pro just kind of takes it the extra mile and pertains straight to doe. Christopher also asked, oh wait, no, that was just a comment, sorry. William asked, how do I feel about hinge cutting for bedding and browse? I think it's fairly good. You just got to watch because more than likely it's only a short-term solution. And that's, a lot of people out there are putting out that hinge cutting is the next bedding. Honestly, the best bedding, that artificial bedding that you can provide, is planting a warm season grass. But again, hinge cutting, you get a lot of stump sprouts, and that's actually sprouts that come out of stump, believe it or not. And if you do hinge cutting right, you can actually get year-to-year growth from sprouts. So for the browse, I would say it's a good thing, bedding short term. Yeah, Chris, definitely leaving trees in your plot helps, making them feel more comfortable, because they can duck behind that tree. They can do all this type of stuff. It overall just makes them more comfortable. What's the wind direction on the diagram? So usually north-northeast or south-southwest. So cross cut on those paths. William said stump dumper is phenomenal, best stuff he's ever used. I appreciate that, William. We do everything we can to provide some good products. And I think that's it. All the questions are done.
Yeah, guys, if you guys have any questions, definitely throw them in here. I know we're at like 8:10 or whatever, but you know, this is a good chance to ask your questions. You said to recommend clover in the woods.
All right, so we got a couple more questions here. Chris asked, when is the best time to plant Lucky Leaf? Really, right now. Right now is a very good time. At least here in PA, we're getting some good weather, lots of good sun. Really, again, it's pretty adaptable. The only time I wouldn't plant Lucky Leaf is during the hottest part of the summer. There's a specific term. But yeah, I just, mid-July when it's super hot and there's not a whole lot of water, definitely don't plant it then. William, you said you recommend clover and wood plots, and Grant kind of lollygagged off of that one. Yeah, definitely clover and plots. Obviously, you can plant anything in the middle of the woods as long as you maintain it. Should look out for the shade tolerance. I know our brassicas work fairly well in shade, but if you're looking for that early season attraction, I would definitely go with the clover. At least our clover. Our clover has that oasis chicory, and that stuff really brings them in. Any more questions, fellas? Great one is, what do you recommend to plant for early season? Well, again, that kind of depends on your objectives as a land manager. If you're looking for something that's easy, low maintenance, obviously the Lucky Leaf. If you're looking to, if you are looking to, where I lost my train of thought. If you're looking to do a, get an early buck down, stuff like that, that Lucky Leaf is good. If you're looking for the pre-rut type of action, definitely stick with more fall forage. Spring King's good if you're looking to do some soil boosting while also doing some, spring, summer attraction. Throw in that Spring King. It's so cheap, but it's quality seed. It's just cheap price, that you have no problem tilling that under and adding some soil building material. Zach, for sure, man. Here's my setup. Give me a call after we're done. William asked us, AccuForage seed have seed coating, and how do you feel about seed coating? So some of our seeds actually do have seed coating. The only reason for that is some coating is essential for seeds to actually become viable and stuff like that within the soil. And it also makes them a little bit bigger so they don't get washed away in any rainstorm. A lot of people are claiming that the coating on seeds is actually the filler, whereas not really. It's the filler is typically cheap seed that is in a blend that it shouldn't be in. So for example, white clover is probably one of the cheapest seed we can get a hold of. And if we were any other company, we would be throwing white clover in our brassicas. One, that puts the weight higher, so then therefore we can push it off easier. And then white clover is so cheap, no problem filling that sucker up. But really, we don't do that because the reason your clover should be in a brassica blend, because that clover is actually going to choke up your brassicas, and you're not going to get bowling ball sized turnips like we do. Missed what was said before seed coating question. I think the thing you might have missed was Zach asking if we could do a call when I gave him my phone number.
And just so you guys know, I do have it recorded. So what I'll do is let me double check. I think once we get off, it'll actually send you the recording. I'll probably have to edit like the first 10 minutes. But if not, then I'll have it up on the Hunt Lab. Kory will probably put it on his YouTube channel. So we'll definitely make sure we get that if you guys want to kind of dissect it and take the things that you need from it. Do you guys have any more questions for Kory as far as, basic food plots and, basic, doing basic equipment or anything like that maybe you want to ask in the group setting? And just so you guys know, I'm giving you a chance to put your questions in here, and we'll call it a night so everybody can get to what they got to do. But AccuForage is the featured partner for the month of May. So just so you know, with the featured partner, it's a company that shares good values. They do conservation work. They're a small company. Their products are made in America, things like that. So with that being said, just so you guys know, I guess is the best thing to put it, the contest the giveaway that we're having right now. If you guys are using AccuForage and you've already used it, drop a review wherever you do a review, and you're going to get 5 more entries into the contest, into the giveaway. Obviously, being a server-side member is going to get you entries also. And then also, if you want to drop service side, and this is everything, people. This isn't just, if you do have, maybe some concerns or questions or anything, drop them in there. That's how you make things better. And let's see here. And then I'll give you guys 5 for being here. So I have everyone's name written down that's here. I'll make sure you guys get 5 entries. I'm going to be doing that on... that's going to be Monday. So Monday we'll let you guys know. I'll do it as late as I can, somewhere between 7 and 8. I'll let you guys know, but we'll do the drawing. And just so you know, Kory's giving out a 4-pack combo. What was you giving out again, Kory? Those 4 items?
So we're giving away, I believe, Ball Frenzy, Grand Slam, Stump Thumper, and Buck Yeah.
Solid. And then we're going to be throwing a bunch of swag. So we're going to have the new hat, the new gray snapback. We're going to have shirts and beer koozies and bracelets. I mean, we're going to hook it up. And then that's for just the first place. The second place winner is going to get some not Grand Slam, Tom Bomb, which is a turkey attractant, and also some swag, things like that. We got like patches, and we're going to hook you guys up with some stuff that no one else has. So whatever you get on this giveaway, it's not just going to be AccuForage stuff. We'll spice it up too, so you have some products that are new that we don't even make anymore, really. So that's pretty cool. And also, like Kory said, I just want to reiterate this. When you're buying this product, it's not like Walmart where you're going to go in, you're going to get a bag of seed that came from some ship out of China. You have no clue what's been in it, what's been crapping on it, what's been going on with it. Kory mixes the seed, he mixes the blends, he's packaging it. He's the one that's taking your order. He's the one that's processing your order, and he's the one that's putting it in the box to send it out. So you actually see the person that's doing it, which is great. Their products are made in America. They obviously keep innovating. They just have a new product out. And the best part of it, we get 20 to fight COVID. Yeah, so we don't want to buy COVID. See, China virus over here, but we definitely want to hook you guys up. But Kory gives 25% off. So with those prices, it's going to save you. It usually covers shipping and a little bit more. If you don't already know how logistics are, shipping is absolutely ridiculous for everyone. The post office has raised its prices twice since January. So they haven't raised their prices in years. So everything's changing. So just so you know, you don't need to.
Let me add something right there, Justin.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Justin said, the shipping costs are out of this world. Even throughout the whole COVID, we haven't raised our prices one bit. I do want to make it aware that I did have to going up a couple cents. Products all around, not too bad, but I just want to make that aware to you guys. So whatever I have stock, until that's gone, I won't raise the prices. And we actually, to make it beneficial to our consumers, we actually take the loss on quite a bit of shipping. So $12 may seem a lot, but the $26 to us is it's a real hit. So we try to do the best we can, but we'll power through it.
Yeah, and I really like that. You guys heard it, didn't raise their prices. We do the same thing at Servicide. We take a huge shipping hit just because it's we're trying to help our members out, and AccuForage is trying to help people to get these products in, because it's a win-win scenario. Conservation wins. You win because you get to save a little bit of money and you get the product knowledge, not just you buy it, the cashier doesn't know anything that's going on, and then you go home and you're trying to watch YouTube videos and webinars and podcasts to do it, when you could just buy some AccuForage. Kory's going to help you. You guys can try to formulate. If you haven't ever looked it up, it's actually like thousands and thousands of dollars to do even a quarter of the stuff that Kory does, and he doesn't take any extra for it. So definitely take advantage of that, and put that product to work. I know I put some in myself to see. We have huge turkey populations here, so I want to see what it's going to do with these populations that we don't even hunt. So I'll give me a year and I'll give you guys some real solid stuff on the Grand Slam. But that's all I have. Kory, did you have anything else?
William has one more question. So if you guys don't need that question answered, feel free to hop off. I know everyone has busy lives. Cody also added another question. So Will asked, what do you feel about soil additives such as calcium boots and other such products? So basically, they're more than likely going to work. You just got to pay attention yourself. Obviously, if your calcium level is at optimal level and stuff like that, there's no reason to add calcium boost. You're just wasting your money, and sometimes it can actually affect your growth. So definitely pay attention to your soil test. Cody, what do you think your best seed product is? I would have to go with Fall Frenzy. Lucky Leaf is a very close second, but both of them definitely a high amount of attraction. I would say close third is probably Out of Sight. I'm really looking forward to seeing what everyone can get out of that. Or in general.
And I'll jump in here real quick. Give you guys just another second if you have any more questions, and we'll shut up for a while. But I used Tom Bomb this year for turkey attractants. So if it's legal in your state to use attractants or on your land or whatever, Tom Bomb is something that I use, and I actually had my hens coming back 4 times a day, and I was actually able to, almost like clockwork, they'd come back at the same time every day because they had nests near there. So what they were doing was they were coming back, they were eating on the tom bomb, they were going back to the nest, and then they would go back out. They'd munch on it one more time. They'd go out into the field to the big ag. Then they would come back. They'd eat on it. So it was something that they were supplementing right before they would go to the nest, because a lot of the times in Florida, they'll roost at 4 or 5 p.m., hours before the sun even goes down, which is odd, but that's just what they do here. So it's one of those things where it's like it was interesting to see how they were taking in that nutrients before they were going to rest, and then when they were coming out, that was the first thing they were eating. So that's something you can also get. I grabbed 4, I think they're like 6-pound tubs of it or whatever, and I actually only used half of it this year. I still got the other half. So all right, well, I appreciate everyone showing up. Like I said, everyone that was here, I'm going to hook you up with 5 entries. It's too easy not to do this. Drop some reviews, ask your questions, definitely take advantage of everything we have to offer. You can hit Kory up at AccuForage@gmail.com. You can hit me up at Justin@serviceside.com, and I'll get this recording up for you guys for tomorrow.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.